Hi, everybody. Jess Arce, America's dyslexia expert, here today. I'm so excited to be speaking with Laura Jackson, who is a new member of our parent support group, and she is a dyscalculia expert, blogger, and author. So, um, Today, this is actually going to be a two-part video. Today's video is about homeschooling your learner with dyscalculia, and tomorrow we're going to talk just about dyscalculia and some tools and ideas and ways to help your learners. You know, not as much is known about dyscalculia.
I know.
So,
It's apparently I asked there's a dyscalculia expert in the UK, Brian Butterworth, and I thought I'm just gonna see if he'll read my manuscript and give me feedback. And so he wrote back, and his review, he said this is the only book written by a parent on dyscalculia. And I was like, I mean, I thought that was true because I've been looking for books myself, and I was looking for blogs, like anything I could find, like where's all the information? And I couldn't find any. So, but he confirmed, yes, not that many people are talking about it yet. So
yeah.
we can change that.
Right. Well, I mean, when I first started helping my kids with dyslexia, like no one was talking about the word dyslexia. Like, and now everyone's talking about it, but they don't always understand correctly what it is. So how old are or do you have more than one kid?
So I have two daughters. They're 11 and 14, and the older one is the one that has dyscalculia, and um, I kind of started figuring it out when she was 9, trying like if I had known what I know now, there were signs way earlier, but
Uh-huh.
I didn't know. And but it was when she was at 9 that she was in 3rd grade, and she could not do her multiplication. They had these like weekly drill, and she couldn't get past like the one times tables, and all of her friends are. And I was starting to there were other things that she was not getting, and I just thought it's kind of funny because this kid really loves school and loves learning and is motivated, but she was also getting pulled out help in math at school, so she should have been at least maybe
Progressing.
keeping up with her peers and wasn't. So, and I just knew absolutely nothing about like learning challenges up to that point. And um, I had homeschooled her for kindergarten, and both of my husband and I have been homeschooled growing up at
Oh,
different times of our
wow.
life. So we were pretty flexible about the whole needing to learn in a certain way. Like we kind of were like, you know what, she'll get there. She's on her own schedule. My big motivating factor is I want her to be curious and I want her to love learning. So as that's happening, I wasn't stressing about the rest, right? But at this point, she was in public school, not progressing, and a friend mentioned something about a math learning disability, and I thought, what is that? And I Googled it and found understood.org's website, and I was reading through it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is my kid. Can't read a clock, can't estimate. Subtraction is a huge problem. Can't memorize her multiplication tables, like just all the way through. And so that set everything in motion. Of just starting to learn about it. First going to the school, and the school knew nothing about it. And their solution was, let's just wait and see what happens next year. It made me think about what you said about dyslexia doesn't need more time. Like
Right.
waiting, that's not going to do anything. Um, so it was a push to get her evaluated by the school. And then we all signed up for public school help, and they didn't know what to do with her. They had no
Hmm.
idea. And at that point, I didn't know that dyscalculics need a different way of learning that's different than just like slowed down regular traditional math. So it was just a blunder actually for a few years in school, just getting through. And then sixth grade, we moved and got into a school district, and they were going to give her an hour of math help every single day in a small math class. And I thought, that's amazing. It ended up not being amazing. It was really horrible. And so we started doing partial homeschool. So in Washington State, you can do dual enrollment. So
Oh,
I don't know, do they have that in California?
no, they do in Nevada. Well, it's not really dual enrollment, but you can take non-academic classes in Nevada, up to three.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
definitely.
so Washington lets you can do dual enrollment, so you could do like part private school and part public, or
Oh,
in
wow.
our situation, part homeschool and part public school. So we did that, and it was kind of easy because middle school, high school, you have all those classes. So I would teach her math at home and then drop her off, and she'd have the rest of the day at school, and nobody really knew except for that she
Hmm.
didn't show up to homeroom. Right now she does science and math and Spanish at home, and then
Hmm.
she has language arts and art and social studies at school, public school. So,
Well, that's great.
yeah.
And so what grade is she in now?
So she's in eighth grade now. Um, so we'll see what happens going forward. But it's worked out great. And it's been amazing because I don't even like math. Like, I'm like the most unqualified parent, probably. But I have learned so much teaching her. And we kind of approach it like we're learning together. Like, let's figure out how your mind works and
Haha.
what makes sense to you and see what happens with that. And so it's been really fun and very connecting because I've learned so much about her dyscalculia from just sitting with her. And I'll tell my husband later, okay, so today we're doing this, and she's looking at that four and the five, and she has no idea. She's like, I know I should know what the total is. It's like just funny things that come and go. Um, that if you're not dyscalculic, you're like, I don't understand how they wouldn't know that. But when you
Right.
don't have a sense of numbers in the same sense, it makes sense. So yeah, it's been great. I've learned so much, and I feel like it's been really exciting to have that front row seat of watching her really gain an understanding for numbers in her own way, and also grow in that confidence for how she's uniquely wired and how she thinks about it.
Hmm.
She's a very creative, artistic type, so we try to bring in a lot of that kind of a strengths-based approach. Like, okay, if this was a drawing, how would you draw that? And she gets really involved with those colored pens and like drawing out the concept, and it can take longer, but it actually makes sense to her. And
Right.
that's what we're trying to go for, is not just memorizing random facts because they're not going to stick anyway,
Right.
but really learning to understand the concept. So
Well, and
it's been
there's no point in rushing through it if they're not going to remember it. It's much better if it takes longer. Well, I want to go back to what you said about you're not qualified to teach her because
maybe
that
that's a
is,
negative,
well, and
a
that's what's
limiting
so,
belief, maybe.
yeah, that's what so many people think is, oh, I'm not qualified to homeschool my kid. And that was one of my goals, was to help parents understand that you're more qualified than any teacher who has gone through years of schooling because you care. You're going
Yes.
to invest that time in making sure that she gets what she needs. So
Yeah.
you're the most qualified teacher there is.
Yes. And I
Uh,
can read her, like when I see her like freeze up, or I can read the expression on her face and I can stop. Like in the class they
right.
just keep going, but I can stop and be like, something happened there. What's going on? And then she can say, um, I just got overwhelmed, or I suddenly am not understanding what you're saying, or I know that number and I just can't remember it right now. Like where a teacher in the classroom doesn't have time to notice each kids' facial
Right.
expressions and what's going on. So,
And they don't have patience very often because they
yeah.
have 29 or 40 other kids who they need to just keep it moving along.
Yeah. And they have one problem we had with the when we were working with special ed and trying to get them to work with my daughter is they had so many requirements from the school district on how they had to teach that didn't actually make sense for a student who was struggling, but they had to, check those boxes and they had rules that I just thought were very ridiculous. Like one of them was they needed to have neat and tidy notebooks, so there couldn't be any doodling or drawing. And I'm thinking, this kid is very artistic. She's got to be able to draw what's happening in this story problem, right?
That's
Um,
crazy.
it was crazy. And then another one was so dyscalculics, you know this, but they really learn best with hands-on materials. So
Right.
using blocks and beads and physically connecting in their mind the idea of as numbers, as quantities and groups of sets. And so they can really only learn that with the experience, a tangible experience. So, but in those, even in the special ed classroom, they had no hands-on materials and they had some behind the desk that you could request. But can you imagine being in middle school and going up to the front of the classroom to tell the teacher you need to use some beads or some Cuisinart rods? I mean, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, that's hard enough when you're in elementary, but in middle school, I just thought, and to think that that is second best to pen and paper is also a real sad idea because whatever is the best means for a student to understand is what should be available, you know. So if there's if they're in that concrete stage and they need to physically experience subtraction by moving things around, then by all means, let's get those things out on the table. But um, anyway, so being able to move out and choose a program and a way of learning that clicks for her was really only possible for us with homeschooling. And as you probably know, there's not that many people that even tutor dyscalculics yet. So hopefully that will, I mean, my goal would be for that to change.
Yeah.
But right now, that's kind of how it is. So I think parents do make some of the best teachers and tutors in this area. And I always tell parents too, like, I hear the same thing, like they don't want to try it doing on their own. But when I think of it as like learning with my daughter, like even
Uh-huh.
sometimes reading her the lesson, like this is what we're gonna do to, um, it takes the pressure off me. Like I don't have to be this expert, you know. I really come into it
Absolutely.
like today we're gonna figure out how to do fractions when you're dyscalculic, you know. I mean, so then we talk about it and figure it out together and I feel like she has a lot more buy-in too because it's not me saying do it this way.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
Well, here's a funny thing. Because I never struggled with math. I struggled with reading, and I got held back in third grade because I couldn't read, and I was in private school, and
yeah,
so I learned how to read the next year in third grade. And because my math skills were so good, they skipped me to the right grade. So I was never in fourth grade.
wow,
And so I did well in math. I got up to geometry and I was done. I didn't want to continue with math.
yeah,
But I never understood fractions or decimals or percentages. And so when I took the real estate exam, I skipped the math portion where it was, asking about what the percentage of things were.
yeah,
And it wasn't until I started homeschooling my kids and we were watching a Matthew C video and he showed in cubes fractions because my
yeah,
my second youngest son was learning fractions when I started homeschooling him.
yeah,
And that was when the light bulb came on for me in my 40s.
yeah,
No, 30s. I was 39. But
yeah,
that's when the light bulb came on for me what fractions were. And then I understood that percentages and decimals were, fractions. but I never could understand growing up what 1/4 and 2/8, how they ever matched up, because
Yeah.
I never had a visual of it. It was
Yeah.
always just the numbers written on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
manipulatives make a world of difference.
Yeah. And I think a lot of our learning was maybe just more, this is how you do it, but you don't know why.
Right, yeah.
And that works, for a lot of people. I have my other daughter's actually pretty good at math. And so I see that happen all the time. Oh, my teacher just said you flip these numbers and then you have I cannot do that with my oldest because it won't make sense. And if something doesn't make sense, her working memory and her memory skills are so low for numbers that we got to keep it. That's one of the tips for dyscalculia is you just teach them the bare minimum that they're going to have to memorize, and the rest of it is worked out with logic and reasoning.
It has been so wonderful talking to Laura today. I hope you guys have found this conversation really informative and helpful, and give you confidence to know that you can homeschool your struggling learner if you want to. And I'm here to help you if you need some extra support. I do private coaching for parents. It usually only takes 1 to 2 hours, so it's not a big, lengthy process. We also are going to be having a monthly support group for parents who want to homeschool, so be on the lookout for that. And we will be having digital workshops or trainings for parents to be able to just do it at home at their leisure. So be sure to stay in touch with our group, either in our Facebook group, on our Instagram, our what else? We've got our YouTube channel, and we send out monthly newsletters that give lots of useful information. So we've got lots of ways for you to continue to learn about dyscalculia, as well as dyslexia, dysgraphia, and similar learning neurodiversities. Thanks. Ta-ta for now.